Hey Bobby, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. Just wanted to ask what you saw out of Matt Milano, especially, both live in the game and once you had a chance to go back and watch it, what you saw just out of him and his return.
Yeah, watching it. First off, it was great to have him back out there. Second off, I would say that there's some rust we got to knock off. There's some things we got to clean up, but that's to be expected. He hasn't played football, in a game in a long time, and each week he'll get better and better.
What did you see of I know I personally was expecting he'd play a little less in his return, just the amount he was able to play, how involved he was, just where did that kind of line up with your expectations?
Yeah, it was really right at where we thought. With the amount of plays and kind of the plan we came up with, it was right at about the amount of plays um, that we wanted to see him get.
And then you touched on it kind of in the beginning, but even just like the emotional aspect of it, him running out of the tunnel, being a captain, what was that whole day like just in that part of it?
It was really cool to see. I mean, he's put a lot of time and effort and hard work into what we've tried to accomplish here, not only this year and last year, but the last 8 years, and really cool to see. I've talked about before, like the personal side of things. You know, him breaking his leg in London, having to stay over there for an extended amount of time, whatever that was, a couple days a week, whatever, and some different things, having to, the work he's put in here, going to meetings every day, knowing he's not playing. There's so much that goes into it that not a lot of people see. And it's really cool to see him back out there.
Awesome. Thanks, Bobby.
You got it.
Hey, Bobby, John Worrell, the Associated Press.
Hey, John, how are you?
Good, good. It's one thing when a ball slips out of Brock Purdy's hand and becomes a fumble. It's kind of an unforced error, but maybe the relief, the excitement that you had when, you know, yours like when that fumble when you created that fumble at the one yesterday.
You're just asking about the excitement.
Yeah, the excitement or relief, perhaps even.
Yeah, I think it was more relief. I think it was more relief. I don't even know if it was at the one. It might have been at the 6 inch, yard line. But that's something our coaches do a great job emphasizing. And it's good to see things that we work on constantly come to life, in games.
What do you make of this? It's almost an unprecedented run of having turnovers in every game, all 12 games. I mean, sometimes
John,
there's
can I
lucky.
interrupt you?
Yep,
They're called takeaways on defense. They don't
very
turn it over.
good.
We
I'm
take it away.
sorry.
I just want to
Yes,
make sure we're on the same page here.
no, that's correct. My bad. What is it about this? Have you been around such an unprecedented, seemingly unprecedented run of takeaways and creating them in every game? What's that like?
I mean, it's an expectation. That's what the expectation is. And if we're not winning the turnover margin in the game and we're not taking the ball away, it's not good enough. And in the end, you can look at yards, you can look at you know all kinds of different things, but if you are taking the ball away from the offense and taking possessions from them, it is the ultimate factor. The ball is the most important thing in the game of football. It's the ball. It's not the yards they get. It's not, obviously you want to limit the yards and you want to hold them to as least yards as possible. But, when it comes down to it, it's about the football. That little ball we say all the time is worth billions, and we need to take it off them.
Very good, Bobby. Thank you very much. And my bad on the takeaways.
Takeaways. There you go, John.
Hey Bobby, I just had one more on Matt. You said that he played as much as you expected. What about what he showed in practice, like showed that he was in a spot where he could play that much in his first game back in so long?
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't. It's not like he hasn't been doing anything, Elena. Like he's been working, he's been grinding, he's been, working on his, conditioning, his strength and all those things. So obviously playing football is playing football. He did have some training camp in there. Obviously he had time off, but it was just a day-to-day thing and, constant communication, which we value here. Buffalo, and you know, it was just making sure everybody was on the same page, making sure, you know, we were in constant communication, not only with our training staff, with him, with the coaches, and, you know, just found a spot where he felt comfortable and see how it went. And, you know, there were some contingency things in there. But yeah, it worked out, you know, and I think the elements, you know, kind of changed the game a little bit, you know, and turned into a running game, which obviously on both sides, I believe, it was a pretty low amount of plays on each side. So, you know, I think it all played in to kind of get him back into the groove.
Terrell kind of talked about after the game how like they see the game very similarly and how
Mhm.
that kind of helped him to have him out there to see them playing together for someone who's, you know, coached both of them for so long. What it
Yep.
was that like for you?
I'm calling the game. It was good to see
That's
him
fair.
out
That's
there,
fair.
but you know, there was just the expectation they do their job at a high level. That's it, you know. But it's cool to see him out there. It was, you know, I think it was a little cooler. It was. I'm not gonna lie. Like when he got announced and the crowd went nuts, you could hear it through the press box, you know. So that was all cool stuff. You know, but when it came down to it, it's just the expectations for each player on every defense we call, and you know how they perform within those defenses. So that all went away as the game went on.
And then one other person I wanted to ask, but I know we've talked a lot about Greg and what he's done this season, but another sack yesterday and just kind of flying all over the place. Did anything stand out to you about maybe what he did yesterday in that kind of game where, you know, kind of getting your feet, your footing was maybe a little
Oh
difficult?
yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely getting your footing. I mean, if you go back to 2017, you know, the advantage here is we do, you know, we have a running list of kind of a checklist of things when it comes to those type of games, and you know, so that's the advantage of being here is you can accumulate those, um, and you know, so. But the guys know what it is. They got to adjust. We got to adjust within the game. You know, we definitely had some adjusting we had to do based off not only the way San Fran was attacking us, but certain things we wanted to do. We maybe had to put on the shelf for certain reasons, or you know, do more of something, and you know, so as far as the footing goes, they had to get a feel for it and adjust on their own. But you know, Greg, I think is playing at a high level. Every week is different. The expectations for all our players are very high, and you know, he's a joy to coach. Fun to watch him play.
Bobby?
You got it.
Hey Bobby, it's been a few seasons since you guys have gone against the Rams. Just what have you noticed about them this season and what makes their offense in particular difficult to stop?
Yeah, you know, I've just kind of gotten into it. You know, I know this. Sean McVay does a great job. They all do a great job there. They've got a lot of really good players. Obviously, they got the two wideouts. You know, the backs run hard. They're going to have you. You know, we take a lot of pride in making sure that we are very detailed in the way we go about things and how we operate. And I think they do the same offensively. You know, and they're going to be pretty precise in what they're doing. And they have a lot of things that complement, you know, the run and the pass both complement each other. So they do a great job, and it's going to be a challenge. They're clearly going to be a little bit different than the last time we played them.
Hey, Bobby, it's Jay with the Buffalo News. How are you?
Jay, how are you?
Good, thank you. The last couple of weeks, you had Kelsey and Kittle at tight end, and you limited those two guys to, I think, 3 catches for 15 yards. That's, you know, maybe 2 potential Hall of Famers there. Who or what has stood out to you that has led to success against that position, which can be at times hard to defend?
Yeah, I mean, I think really, Jay, what it comes down to is, you know, we understand. We try to create awareness for our guys to understand how a certain player is going to attack our defense, if that makes sense, and not necessarily trying to do a certain thing for that player, but understanding within each call where they can hurt us specifically, and that goes with any player, any good player, if that makes sense to you. And you know, I think our guys just have a really high awareness of the players, their locations, and based on our call, what could potentially present itself. So I think it's just a credit to our coaches and our players of having a high awareness of where the ball wants to go, the quality of player, and what each defense might call for from different positions based on locations, routes, route progressions, all those things.
Sounds good. Thanks, Bobby.
You got it.
Hey, Coach, Ian Mills with News 10 NBC in Rochester. I joined late, so I apologize if somebody already asked this. With DeWayne Carter potentially coming back in the next couple of weeks, your excitement to have him back after he had a pretty good start to the season, and then secondly, with the defense playing as well as it is right now, does that make it any easier to kind of ease him into the lineup and into the rotation?
Yeah, I mean, anytime we get a player back, we're excited about it. And secondly, I'd say we're so minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, week by week that, our expectation is that he comes in and he can play at a high level to make sure that we can operate at a high level. Obviously, we want everybody to be an asset and nobody to be a liability to what we're doing. And we're going to evaluate that based off where any player is and do what's best for the Buffalo Bills defense.
And secondly, obviously you've been in Buffalo a long time now, won a lot of AFC East championships, but first as defensive coordinator, was there any extra gratitude or excitement about that fact?
I was definitely excited. A lot of people put in a lot of hard work, but I quickly moved on and was more focused on other things that we have to accomplish. And I move on pretty quick. So, yes, there was a lot of excitement, and you got to enjoy the moments. I think Sean talked about that. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to win. It's hard to win a division title. The NFL is hard, and a lot of work goes into it, and our coaches and our players, work their tails off to put us in a position to be able to do that.
All right. Thanks so much, Bobby.
You got it.
Hey, Bobby, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. I just want to double back to John's question about the takeaways. Obviously, you said it's an expectation in Buffalo, but to consistently be at the top of the league in that category, in a category that sometimes for some teams is fool's gold, how is it so consistent year after year?
We have a special sauce that we formulate up in our kitchen. No, it's just the emphasis. You get what you emphasize. And we emphasize it. Our guys buy into it. There's been a lot of players here that might not even be here right now that helped instill, really, if you want to call it a tradition, a standard, whatever you want to call it, of this is what the Buffalo Bills defense does. And we incorporate it into practice. We talk about it constantly. And, you can do that, but it comes down to players buying in. And I think what happens is kind of when you walk in this door, that standard is kind of like a cloud just sitting over the top of us. Of they know, even in practice, as simple as it is, if we don't take the ball away, we make sure we understand that that's not good enough and we need to take the ball away.
You see your guys, anytime that somebody has the ball, they're ripping at it. How do you kind of blend, the idea that you want to rip the ball away, but sometimes when you do that, you might give up a few extra yards in the process. How do you kind of marry the two?
Yeah, we don't want to go for the ball if the guy hasn't been wrapped up first and foremost. And that's, we talk a lot about second guy in and those type of things. But at times, as much as you're going to talk about taking the ball away and emphasize it, you got to understand that those things are going to happen, and you just got to continue to emphasize, the way we want to go about taking the ball away.
And then with Taylor, what's the biggest growth that you've seen from him, since he's gotten here?
Yeah, I think it's just comfortability. I think it's comfortability and confidence in what we're doing. I mean, it's a second year in the system. Obviously, he got a lot of run last year. Got to be with Micah and Jordan and really see their process as far as how we do things here and how they kind of have built their rhythm in what we do and how they see things in our system. And I think he's spun that into his own, version of how he knows he needs to prepare and operate within what we do. But, Taylor's doing a great job right now, and he's definitely a leader out there, and he's playing some good football.